It's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, this is Ivy Slater, and welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. I'm going to introduce you today to an incredible woman, a woman I admire, I respect, and I'm only going to give you a little bit of information about her because Lindsay is a powerhouse and has quite a story and quite a journey that I've been learning so much from her from. Lindsay McDonnell is a speaker, sought-after cancer coach, and author. She's an 8-year thriver. Do you get it? Listen to the word. She's an 8-year thriver with metastatic breast cancer and chronic myeloid leukemia. Lindsay is a project lead certified with the National Breast Cancer Coalition, a certified integrative oncology navigator with the Smith Center for Healing and the Arts, and you can thrive coach, okay, and Cancer Choices guide. Lindsay, it is such a joy to talk to you again today. Thanks for joining me here on Her Success Story.
My pleasure, and thank you. I loved our conversation last time, and I love being able to share what I do with your audience.
So, this isn't about the, oh my goodness, I had cancer conversation.
Mm-mm.
This is about building things from a place of thriving.
Mm-hmm.
You've built a business. You have shifted your life around. You had your own business. You're an interior designer for many, many years of your life. So you're not new to running things. Let's look at and to see how you ended up on this trajectory. Share a little bit of your story, if you don't mind.
Sure. I was diagnosed with breast cancer 8 years ago. And just like anybody else, I went to the oncologist. I followed their instructions. I actually felt fairly confident that I would survive this and get rid of it, because that's the way that I do things. That's the way I've always done things. And the reality was that it came back a year later, and I had to look at why. And I had to learn a different world in the cancer world, which was Dancing with Cancer, which is the name of my book, Your Dance with Cancer. But most importantly, what I focused on was the fact that doctors were focusing on the disease as opposed to focusing on the patient. And that left patients feeling very alone and not particularly powerful, not particularly supported. Even though their disease was being treated, there are so many different things that go on with cancer: your emotions with your family, your emotions with your friends. What if something's not working? How do you go on to the next step? And I realized there was a huge, huge need for someone to be there with the patient when they needed it, to help them move forward and to help them learn that they had the right to be very respected by the doctor and listened to, as opposed to it just being about their disease. So I'm that person.
And I think that's powerful. And I did forget to mention your book, Your Dance with Cancer. And when we were connected through a mutual friend, Lindsay and I, and when I saw the name of the book, I was like, wow, isn't that a different perspective? Isn't it a perspective? Because I look at our dance in life, my book, From the Bar to the Boardroom, Choreographing Business Success Through Authentic Relationships. When I think dance is such a beautiful metaphor of how we choose to move through life. And I see things, when I see things, I see things as waltzes, as, oh, 1, 2, 3. If we do these 3 steps, 1, 2, 3. It's like, oh, if we do these 2 things, oh, it's a 2-step. I visually see things that way, and it resonated with me. So as you went through your journey, there's a lot of people who'd be so focused on their own journey, they can't see outside of it. And you didn't go there. You saw the outside of it, of saying, this is what I'm learning, and how do we help others?
And so part of that is I am naturally curious. And I was able to take that skill and treat my cancer objectively, not like, oh, this is my disease and I'm going to either be a victim or I'm going to die from this, or this is a terrible place. I was able to say, this is a project, and this is a project that I'm going to have to need to figure out. And that shifted everything. Instead of it being personal, I was objective, and seeing cancer objectively gives you many, many, many more choices than seeing it personally, because it gives you freedom to research out of the box treatments, to learn how you want to communicate with your friends and family, how you want them to communicate with you. And you have power when you can look at it objectively.
I think that's it is so important. And, when I talk about business, I talk about pulling the emotion out, right? Making logical business decisions. And how do you ground yourself to not make that and have that emotional response? And that's exactly what I'm hearing you say.
Exactly what I'm saying.
Right? It's like, okay, we think about like, okay, we can make business decisions without emotions, but yet when we're talking about our own health and wellness, and we're having issues with our health, be it cancer, or anything else, how do we move the emotional response to the side? And I love how you position this of addressing this. Okay, I have this project over this period of time. I'm not quite sure the time length of the project, how long it's going to take me to renovate the house. The contractor said 9 months, but we all know that, right? In your interior design world, well, we're under a project renovation, right? So you approach it as a project. There could be delays or shifts. So you open a wall up, and it's not always the electrical that you expect, right? And if we look at it from that perspective, it gives us that place of knowledge-based decision making. And you are brilliant with that. You are able to do that for yourself.
And what I do is I teach other people how to do that. It's amazing that when that door opens for them, their whole demeanor completely shifts, because they can think back on times that they did solve things, that they did work on projects, and what were the steps that they took to become informed about this project, to know what's out there, to deal with this project, to know that sometimes there are delays, and that doesn't mean the project is not going to finish. It just means they need to add something to it. And it really took a lot of the fear, and it does take a lot of the fear away from the clients that I coach and that I get to be with on this journey. You can hear it in their voice.
You could hear it in their voice. I love that. I have to ask then, you're speaking in more communities.
Yes.
As we talk business on Her Success Story, how are you creating these connections, these avenues to make this huge difference and impact you're making amongst people who are navigating the project of cancer?
So a couple of different ways. I'm speaking at conferences that are full of cancer patients. My speech is also motivational. So when I'm doing that, at this point, almost everybody that I run into has some experience with cancer, whether it's a loved one, whether it's a friend, whether it's their own situation. So when they hear me, they know that there's somebody out there. And then it becomes about referrals. And I have been referred to people all over the world. And I treasure every single one of them, because what an honor and a privilege to be on this journey with them. So between the conferences, the referrals, I have my book, I have a website now, Your Dance with Cancer. I have a Facebook page. People are finding out more about me and knowing that it's available to them.
So I have to ask you, Lindsay, the interior designer for many, many, many years. What you were navigated this project for yourself.
I did.
You turned it into truly a business.
Yeah.
What surprised you? I mean, I think this is all out of left field. I love it. But what has surprised you in this piece of your life, in the building of the business of this?
How many people don't know how to do this? And most cancer patients don't know how to take a step back and look at it objectively. And the relief that I hear in their voices when they start to get it has surprised me, thrilled me, nourished me, and them. And that's been the biggest thing, that this issue is common to so many cancer patients, especially the ones where they feel like they personally are not being treated, and it's just their cancer, and they're having to swim out there alone. And that's it.
Do you, as you work with your clients, do you have a process? Is there a methodology here that you have developed? Or is it open heart to open heart and practical to practical?
It's all of those. I'm also an NLP coach, neuro-linguistic programming. So
can you share a little bit? Okay, I love that you shared that. Share a little bit what neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, is for our listeners who might not have been exposed to that.
Sure. They are actually exercises that change the way that you think of things deep down. So, for instance, a circle of power, okay, where you step into a circle that you made, or a vapor, whatever it is, in your mind, and you conjure up the most powerful people you know, and you take that into your body and you anchor it there. So anytime that you go somewhere where you feel disempowered, you can literally step back in that circle or step back in that vapor and remember that experience of how you stood, how you breathed in that power, and take it back out with you. So that's just one example of an exercise. So when those are needed, I have that accessibility. A lot of times it's heart to heart. A lot of times it's listening to get to the bottom of what is driving their fear. It's not always death. Sometimes it's disappointing family, disappointing themselves if it doesn't go well, not feeling entitled to take some time for themselves so that they can recenter. As women, we know that we are always very busy and very often are putting other people first. It's learning that this is the time to put themselves first. And that's what we talk about. And then
And sometimes as women, sometimes we truly struggle with putting ourselves first because we are the caregivers of all caregivers.
and this is the time that it is very, very needed, because in taking time for yourself, you're going to nourish yourself. You're going to gain strength. And I will say that this journey requires your strength of yourself. And that's the place to get it.
So what are some of the tips and ways we can put ourselves first, nurture ourselves, take the time to see the and take the time, the energy, and see the value of taking ourselves as number one?
So what we usually do is we think about when you feel like you are in flow, when you are feeling powerful, feeling nourished, or in your space and everything is good. And we take a look at what makes up that feeling. Then we also take a look at what's taking away from that feeling. And we narrow down what's taking away, and we add to what makes us feel good. And you come out of that when you feel good, with, especially when you're not being crushed by other things, with an incredibly joyful experience, and that joy nourishes yourself.
So how can we, as a community, look out for people who are going through this journey and help them see this? Obviously, yes, of course, connecting to you, connecting to the website, Your Dance with Cancer, buying the book as a gift of Your Dance with Cancer. But what are some things to, as just the average Joe out here, we could have our eyes open for?
The best thing that the average Joe, when they're dealing with a person with cancer, whether it's friend, family, a chance meeting where they want to support the person, is to not jump in with, oh, I've heard this. This is what you should do. They don't know your situation. They don't know the makeup of your body. The best thing people can do is allow space for the patient to say, I just want to be here with you. Is there anything I can do for you? Not from their own head, but from their heart, connecting with the patient, because cancer patients get overwhelmed pretty quickly. And we don't want to have to fight that. We need the space to figure out what's we're doing and what's going on. And we need our people to understand that, to not take things personally if it's a day that we can't talk to them, and to really be accepted as, you have the power for this. We support you in this.
I love that. Give them the space and be.
And be. That's the
And be.
biggest thing. Everybody is different. Two people with exact same diagnosis, exactly the same, could need very different things, but it's up to the patient to say to their friends, hey, this is what I need. And believe me, the person next to me that has the same disease is asking for something different.
So open your heart, open your ears.
Yes. And don't be afraid. You know, I think people are very scared to interact when somebody is a patient. They don't want to say too much. They don't want to say too little. They want them to know that they can help, but they get uncomfortable. Our society is in general not so comfortable with the word cancer.
Yeah.
And to take that stigma away and just say, what can I do for you? I can't
Love it.
wait to be with you. That changes the whole game.
I love that. So, Lindsay, how can our listeners learn more, lean in, reach out?
So I wrote a book called Your Dance with Cancer, Steps to Maximize Your Chance of Survival. It has all kinds of tips and resources. It has my journey of 9 years. And it also has my contact in there, which is Lindsay at yourdancewithcancer.com. At this moment, I am not charging for my services, but I am asking people to pay it forward. And that is because it's hard enough with cancer that because I'm a thriver, I was not comfortable putting another pressure on them. I love talking to people who need this particular mindset, and dancing more than anything. Dancing is the opposite of fighting. Fighting will exhaust you. And honestly, if you lose and they say she lost her battle to cancer, I would honestly jump out of the grave and say, how dare you say that to me? Dancing lets you learn new steps, lets you not be so afraid of the fight, and leaves open your curiosity. And that would be the best way to contact me, just looking for the book, or my Facebook page, which is Your Dance with Cancer, my website, which is Your Dance with Cancer. I was consistent.
I love it. I love it. Because at heart, you're a businesswoman. And Lindsay, thank you so much for joining me here today. Listeners, all those links to Lindsay's website, how you can reach out, how you can get the book, is all in the links below. So don't worry that I was like, oh, I didn't type Lindsay's name correctly. Was that an LINDEYAYSY? What? It's here. It's below. Just click. That's the key. Take the action, click. And as we all know people who are in the Dance with Cancer, listen, show up with an open heart like Lindsay is suggesting, an open mind, and share the resources forward. Share the wealth of resource forward. Lindsay, thank you for joining me here today.
Ivy, thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure.
And listeners, always take a moment and say, gee, I listened to this episode. What's my takeaway? What did I learn? And what are you going to do about it? What is that one step forward you can take? What's the impact you can make? Thank you for joining us here today. Remember to continue to listen to her success story. If you loving these episodes, please share it forward, give us a review, and hit subscribe. See you next time.